All righty. I'm going to have to hold on just a second. I got a fresh batch of decaf. I want to go pull off the thing here. So I'll be back here. I'm waiting for it to finish up. No, I get you, John. You just have, I get it. I get it. But I see a little bit of mockery on your old buddy Josh there, John. By saying, how dare Josh challenge Einstein? And then I bring it back to you when I say, John, what's your proof that Einstein's legit? And of course, you'll say Eddington. You won't, because you might not know what Eddington is. And then we say, oh, Eddington's your proof, huh? Eddington. Oh, interesting. And then we know we have you. We have you. You know, I'm just using John as the avatar here because John was mocking your old buddy Josh by saying, we're going to talk about hoaxes. Like I was laughing. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was funny. I can no calm. What did he say here? Yeah, right here. Well, let's start. Maybe we'll talk about the moon landing was fake and Einstein was a fraud. So John was having fun at my expense while I wasn't there. Not cool, John. Not cool. I'm just goofing on you, man. But for all those Einsteinians, hey, Jeremy, right on. All right, see, now Jeremy is the only one on Rumble who can say I'm here. All right, FYI. So anyone else use that on Rumble, you're wrong. We've already allocated that we're going to is trademark for Jeremy to say I'm here. Anyway, just as anyone who wants to dive deep into the Einstein fraud, which you should, it's fun. It's actually fun. I enjoy it very much. You'll quickly recognize that the reason the Royal Academy of Science or the Royal Astronomical Science, RAS, in 1919 perpetuated Einstein. It was literally the biggest freaking hoax in probably since even more than the moon landing, frankly. It's crazy. And you're like, why did these British astronomers, physicists, all these guys perpetuate on the mass of the world a German scientist? Why? What the hell was that about? It's the weirdest thing ever. And then you recognize, well, it's Eddington. And then you start diving deep into the Eddington experience. You're like, that's a fraud. And yet Eddington, even the beginning when he was like worried he's going to get called out, he's like, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm not so sure. They're going to find me out. I'm not so sure. And later when the fraud was solidified, Eddington said, "This was the greatest experience of my life as proof of relativity. Oh my goodness." You're like, that's not what you were saying before, you freaking clown. Anyway, you can see all these other guys in there too on the in the meeting where they determined that Einstein was proven, general relativity was proven by Eddington, his eclipse experience. So like, yeah, no, that doesn't prove anything. It's kind of like my man here is saying, it's all, yeah, right on, man. It's just fun. It's fun. It's like being back in the army, man. Everyone talking smack on each other. It's cool. But it's like Boss Tweed here saying, so same thing. It's like, we proved the Eddington experience is so freaking dumb. I'm like, I can't believe it. I can't believe people fall for this. It's nuts, but they fall for it because they're ignorant. Ignorant means they just don't know. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It's kind of like Boss Tweed here saying about the moon landing. I just have to say, speaking of the moon landing, my brother-in-law is part of the Navy navigation team, which picked up the first Apollo mission capsule. He never mentioned the whole thing is a fake. I mean, it's kind of like somebody actually on this live stream said, I saw them launching rockets. Thus, logically, says the moon landing was not a fake. Literally, some guy said that here. I was like, okay. I saw them launching rockets. Thus, that proves. I'm like, whoa. We have a distinct lack of logic in our American society, which is bad, actually. It's which is bad. It's simply because you have to have logic and reasoning. There's no two ways around it. And it perpetuates everything, not just in freaking physics. I mean, it's like the string theory. I just don't want to get into that. I'm not an expert by any stretch on the string theory, but I follow enough physicists who know it's bunk. And I'm just like, how many people fell for the string theory brainwashing? And now we're like, maybe not so much. Anyway, physics. Chemistry is probably the one true science I could think of. Biology obviously is corrupt as all can be when men can get pregnant now. Chemistry, yeah, that'd probably be the one true science. I bet. Economics is just fake. All up top to bottom, economics is fake. Um, I mean, physics, tons of fakeries in physics, tons of fakeries in physics. I guess chemistry is probably the big one there. Engineering is where it's at, dude. Engineering. I try to get my kids involved in engineering because that's the one true science that we can use on day to day. 100% engineering. Um, you know, my financial planning is fake because it's all speculation. We don't know. I mean, we don't know. And we have all these friggin' numbers. It's stupid. As my man Wade Fowler, who I like, he had another article in Advisor Perspectives about various spending patterns in retirement. I said it's just all based on pure speculation and using historical numbers to project the future. I said you can't do that bridge building. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, oh well, if that happens, there's a 5% probability that everyone will fall, so that's okay. It's not. It's all speculation. That's okay. Just admit this freaking speculation. Don't think we have all the answers. You know, capital asset pricing models, market efficient market theory, efficient market hypothesis, MPT, modern portfolio theory. It's all bunk, and yet people act like it was sacrosanct. It's so freaking dumb, man. You're sitting there thinking, how come people can? I mean, I don't want to get to theology here, but how come people can't just say, I just don't know? How come everyone has to know the answers? I mean, when it comes to God, like the Trinity, or not the Trinity, or Paul, or not Paul, or Muslims, or Jews, or friggin' all these. We don't know. We don't know. Why can't you just say I don't know? But I don't know. But I'm going to go this route because of what I believe. Why can't people just admit that? It's okay not to know. I don't get it. Everyone's like has to have. It's my way. Why? Because some book. I don't care what book it is. Like, literally, I don't care if it's freaking. My man Alfonso Kelly, Challenging Modern Physics. I mean, just all these books. I don't care if it's the Bible. I don't have Bibles in the other room. It's okay not to know. Why can't people acknowledge that, man? Like, I don't know. It's weird. It's like the Trinity is obviously true. Like, you don't know that. You don't know that. That doesn't mean it's not true, but it doesn't make you a heretic to say, I think there's some issues here because there's tons of issues in the Trinity. And and I had this guy email me. I was like, it actually kind of ticked me off. He's like the Socrates, whatever that is, Socrates method questioning me on. I was like, dude, I'm not a criminal here. I'm not being investigated. Just stop with that crap and just tell me what you get to the point. And he didn't email me back, which ticked me off because I said, dude, you're trying to set me up for a fall guy because I have to challenge your orthodoxy. And I don't the idea that you can't get in a debate, a dialogue about it ticks me off. But he's like challenging me like, the way he was it actually pissed me off. I was like, what the hell is this? I'm not under investigation. I just have questions. He's using a Socratic method. That's what it's called. Socratic, I think, that lawyers use. I'm like, no, just cut to the chase, dude. But he didn't do it. He didn't do it because he didn't want to show his cards. And that's the issue. I said, that's what ticks me off. Show your cards. I'll show mine, you show yours, and let's get to work, man. I don't get why everyone's got to have like this freaking stick up their butt. They know everything. I'm like, I never understood that. Why are you curious about the world and the supernatural being? All right, I'm going to go over there and get my cup of decaf. I'll be right back. Oh, speaking of which, Jeremy, you like that. The Maine defending gun rights, gun owners of Maine. You like that. All right. So, because, friggin' your stupid governor, they want to get rid of guns. I haven't, no one's heard from Kim. I don't know what's going on with that, Denise. That makes me sad. All right. Yeah. Well, we got, what is it? We got the hypothesis first and then the theory second. All right. So we got to make sure we understand the hypothesis comes first. All right. So we have an idea with thought and observation. We have a hypothesis. Then we do this scientific method, which people don't do anymore, to get a theory. Yeah, I don't think I'm reversing those. Anyway, I just I see. This is the thing with Christianity that ticks me off. Not just Christianity, but actually like the moon landing people, the virus people, the vaccine people, is that they've heard one side of it and they don't know another side. And when they're challenged on the other side, some people turn away because they said, "I never knew that. I never," and that's what takes me out about Christianity. Because what happens with Christianity, a lot of people actually don't even read the book. They don't even read the Bible. They have no clue. And as such, they don't know what they're talking about. They just hear from other people. And the minute they're presented, especially in college, with an alternative point of view, they're like, ah, Leviticus, for instance. You know what I'm saying? Numbers, where Moses had a guy stoned to death for picking up sticks on the Sabbath. And if you haven't heard these things, you've only heard a glossed over version of the cliff notes of Christianity. You're like, "Ugh, how do you defend that?" And this is the challenge: is that when people get, especially when they're away from home, they're going to get glommed onto by these atheists, these evil satanic atheists who have some good answers to the challenges of Christianity that they've never been exposed to. That's why people are falling away from Christianity, because the Christians out there are they're know-it-alls. They know everything. And then you like present one, then they back, one simple piece of question, like, hey, John 3:16, are we sure it says believe or does it mean obey? Huh? And people are like, the KJV, like that's the problem, dude. The NIV, yeah, exactly. What's the original manuscript say? You see what I'm saying? And then you go back to just basically the Dead Sea Scrolls. Dead Sea Scrolls, oh, Dead Sea Scrolls, that's your validation of Isaiah and things of that nature. How's the Dead Sea Scrolls written on? Papyrus or parchment? Parchment. Goatskin. Huh, not a cheap way to write. Dead Sea Scrolls, Block Hebrew? Yeah, okay. When was Block Hebrew used primarily? It wasn't in freaking 100 BCE or BC, however you want to say it. And it's double space too. That's weird. So we have doubles, we have spacing, we have block Hebrew, and we have parchment paper, not papyrus. Now, there might be reasons for these things, and you could easily make an argument for papyrus, parchment over papyrus, because papyrus was expensive at some point in history. But in of itself, you're gonna have to make that claim along the lines of when the Dead Sea Scrolls was written. And you're gonna have to say why they did spacing in block Hebrew too. And now, if you're just basing your theology on the Dead Sea Scrolls as legitimate, and you had never heard this, and now you're away, and people say, "I challenge the Dead Sea Scrolls," you're like, "Ooh, I thought the people I trusted who said they knew all this crap, that knew what they're talking about, and it turns out they didn't know what they're talking about, or they hid it from me." Well, either way is worse. Either way, the Dead Sea Scrolls may or may not be legitimate. But what I'm saying is, when you first challenge with the opposition that's legit, you never heard it before, then your first thing is like, why did they hide that from me? If they hid that from me, what else are they hiding from you? And then they're gone. And that's a thing that Christians have a hard time dealing with, because the Christians are a very know-it-all bunch. I'm telling you, you should see the comments I get, especially when it comes to KJV. I'm like, it's weird to me. I'm like, you not know, you not know the origin of the KJV? Oh, yeah. And the butchery of look, I got the NIV right here. I mean, the NIV has got its own issues too. Don't get me wrong. It's nuts. Anyway, and this is the whole methodology that we have to contend with is the arrogance of our modern culture, and a lack of just wonder. And I just sit there, I think the wonder of God's creation. You just look around and you're like, man, it's such a wonder. I mean, just the tree right there is, starting to sprout again. Every single year, that tree sprouts once. And it's such an amazing thing of beauty. Every single year. And every year that tree grows upwards, meaning it's pulling as a pump nutrients and water from the ground, going against gravity. Now, there's explanations for all that, I grant you, but that's, in my opinion, that's a supernatural thing that happens. Supernatural means it doesn't. It has to happen by design. I mean, this tree right here, and I got trees back there. I got mulberry bush, a tree that I planted 5 to 6 years ago. That sucker is huge. Every year, it just grows up and up and up, going against gravity, taking nutrients from the soil that feeds it, and then provides, in that case, mulberries I can eat. This one right here is just an oak tree. Is it an oak tree? Can't remember what kind of tree that is. I don't think it's an oak tree. I forgot. But anyway, it just, how do you not look at that and just say, it just gets bigger by the year? It's amazing. Every year, just like that, it just comes back. Now let's say prayers. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for your glory and just showing us your glory every day. If we just look outside, just look outside, just look inside at our own eyeballs. This is not created by man. It's not created by a big bang. It's not created by chance. It's created by you. Oh, the creator of all living things. And yet we have so much arrogance as if we know everything about you and we don't know the first thing. The first thing. But we know you're out there. To be overly arrogant that we know everything about you, or to be overly arrogant that we don't need a creator to create everything in front of our eyes. God, we just pray for forgiveness of our many sins against you, because my goodness, we all do it. And we just pray to be humbled enough so we just recognize your glory in all we do. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's get on it. I want to all right, so Denise says my current example by assumptions and right. I can't remember, Denise. Let me go check here. Jeremy's unsubscribing because I'm drinking decaf. I'm still come up. Jeremy asks, I'd like to hear your alternative thoughts on the Holy Trinity. I'm still working on that, Jeremy. I'm still working on that. My trust in Paul is weakened significantly. Let's just put it that way. And so if my trust in Paul is weakened significantly, then that challenges a lot of my previous position on the scripture, on Paul's epistles. And that doesn't mean my trust in Luke is weakened, but my trust in Paul is. And if such, then we go back to James. Why do they emphasize Paul over James so much? And that's a big issue for me right now. And I'm not. I got so many things I'm working on. It's like, I'll read that. I'll look into that a little bit, then I'll drop it and I'll come back. But probably the 5 things I'm working on right now, thinking about. That's one of my things I'm thinking about. I'm looking a little bit deeper into it. And the more deeper you look, the more you're like, there's a lot of bad things that have happened. The man has done to butcher the Holy Scripture. And then you start saying, well, what is the true Holy Scripture? And you're like, like Enoch. Everyone wants to use Enoch. I don't buy that, but I don't have enough thought on that to say one way or not. But I'm not big on Enoch. Thomas. I'm not against that necessarily. I'm sitting there thinking I'm not learned enough to make a claim on either of those. I'm becoming more learned every day on Paul, though, and I'm not like when I see, especially when it comes to the butchering that they've done in the past with the Bible. It's bad, especially with the English translation, how they butchered it to promote a certain thing. And we look at Martin Luther, like, man, that guy, dude. What? Anyway, so it's Catholics. We had Thomas More. They had Martin Luther. There's a lot of bad guys speaking on behalf of the church, and you're like, a lot of these guys are just political posturing. There's no 2 ways around it. And as such, why would you be so intimidated by the Anabaptists, which was a pejorative against the people who didn't believe in the Trinity? The Arianism of the previous of the Mennonites and things of that nature. And I'm literally, that's beyond my capability right now, but it makes you wonder, like, why were you guys so hot to trot to freaking literally murder these people? And you're gonna say, okay, it's almost like January 6th. We're gonna murder these people because they're rebelling against the empire. How does that not sound like January 6th? And Martin Luther blessed the Catholic Church to do this, as a matter of fact. And I'm like sitting there thinking, man, to stay in political power, we're going to lock up people for 2 years in solitary confinement without a trial. Because why? And I'm sitting there thinking, we haven't murdered people yet that we can tell, if you know what I'm saying. But we're throughout history, to keep your political power, this is what happened. And Martin Luther did the same. Thomas More did the same. It's bad, dude. It's just there's no twist around that. And then you start thinking back to when the English version of the Bible says slaves. It's not slaves the way we look at it, like freaking Africans in chains. It's slaves as servants, man. And it's maybe you can call it indentured servitude, but not the same way that we would like Leviticus. It's not slaves like enchained with whips. And yet that's the butchering they've done. And they did it deliberately. I'm just telling you right now. They could have easily said servants, easily said help, freaking company help. You see what I'm saying? But they didn't do that. Why? Why did they not do that? And that's just my journey. And people, wow, how dare you question? And I just it's okay to, exactly. Look at Brent Allen. Questions, not believing. Anyway, so let's go back to what Denise says. Denise says, when am I using the right capital? I don't know, Denise, so let me just double check here. And something just popped up that kind of made me laugh. I just don't get why people get offended by that. People, I'm questioning things. What's wrong with that, man? It's nuts to me. It's just the weirdest thing. So I'm looking up right capital while I'm yapping here. So we're going to go to sample, and let's see what we're using there for Miss Denise. All right. And we're going to bring you guys up here, and we're going to go to investments. All right. So we're going to hit this guy right here. All right. And we're going to share screen. And right capital. All right. So we got Ann and Kevin's sample here, and we got this is a all bond portfolio, 4.1% with a 4.6% standard deviation. All right, so just remember we have a variance, i.e., so let me just I want to go into this a little bit here. This is important, and I've emphasized this a million times. I'm going to do it again because I think it's that important to understand how standard deviation works. So we have our expected rate of return. That's our mean expected return. So we expect that we'd get 4% a year. All right, so that would be our mean. We expect to get 4% a year. Our standard deviation around that. So it's a variance around that. And then standard deviations is nothing but, the square root of the variance is what it is. And so you have the variance around the 4%. How many, you get 22, you get 18, you get 12, negative, all this stuff. That's all it is. So you square root that, and that's your standard deviation. So we have we're going to say a 5% standard deviation. And we'll come back to this here in just a second. All right, because I think this is critical when you're running your own stuff. So you have a 4% mean rate of return, a standard deviation of 5. All right. So what that means is we can take one standard deviation, which would be 67% roughly, around the mean. So one standard deviation. All right. So that means if we took this guy right here, we would expect within 67% of the time, 2/3 of the time, our downside would be -1 because we take this and we subtract it by that. Our downside within 2/3 of the times, we'd have -1 on any given year or +9. All right. So that's one standard deviation. A lot of people are like, 2/3 of the time is pretty tight, though. That means 1/3 of the time it could be beyond that one standard deviation. And so what we do is we take 2 then to the third standard deviation, 3 standard deviations. It says within 99.8% of the expected rate of return, our expected rate of return is 4%. Within 99.8% of probability, with the numbers that we're pulling out of the air. All right, this isn't guaranteed. This is just like Einstein creating crap out of nowhere. We're doing the same thing, but we're using this based on our presumed returns for bonds in this regard. And presumed return for bonds is actually pretty spot on. That's not Einstein. That's pretty straight. But this is that we're still using a 5% standard deviation just for simplicity. And that's going to be based on historical volatility. And I'm okay with that. I mean, you do the best you can. And so, no, John says that real return. No, this is great question. Hey, look at John talking smack and coming back with some good questions. Good for you. That's not real return. That is nominal. Nominal. That's a good question, man. All right. So here with 3 standard deviations, 99.8% of the time, we would expect our portfolio to give us between 15% here, plus or minus this. So we'd have a negative 11 or positive 19 if my numbers are right. Yeah, so 15. Yeah, there you go. So within 99.8% of the years, because this is per year, by the way, we'd expect this all bond portfolio to give us no greater than 19% on the up and no less than 11% on the down. And so you're sitting there thinking, I can take 11% decline. I can take that. And you're like, I can do that. But with that said, you're still only getting 4% on your nominal rate of return. SMRT, I'm so smart. You're only getting 4% of your nominal rate of return on a nominal rate of return. So the question is, will 4% be enough? And again, if it is, and you can deal with the 11% downside risk, which doesn't happen often, but it could, within 99.8% of the time, you're like, yeah, I'm willing to take that risk return. So now what we do is we go back. It's okay. That's with an all bond portfolio. And the reason we use a 4% now, whereas before is 2.5%, I just use a 10-year treasury. And the 10-year treasury, you just, whatever the yields are, I mean, literally, this is about as, I mean, anything could happen, but whatever the yields are on your bond is pretty much spot on the rate of return you're going to get. It's just that simple. I mean, it might be off by a little bit, but generally speaking, very, very convincing that if you have a 4% bond as a current yield, that's what you're going to get. And that's your future projections. And right now, the 10-year treasury, the last I checked, was about 4%, 3.9, yeah, 3.95. Now, I don't change. That was actually when I use those numbers for bonds. I don't change it but once a year. Excuse me. I used the 10-year treasuries at 3.35 back then, but so I threw some corporate bonds in there as well to get my 4%. So if the 10-year treasury stays at 4, and I think next year I might change it to bonds give us 4.5 because corporate bonds generally give you a higher rate of return because more risk. But anyway, so I did that at the beginning of the year, and then for stocks, let me just go to here real quick. Let me share my screen. And my man says you got energy transfer. That's funny. All right, so here's stocks. We're going to go to all stocks. And so for all stocks, I'm giving a 6% nominal rate of return. 6%. All right, so that stocks are 6, bonds are 4, and anything in between will be a combination thereof. So we'll see a growth portfolio be 5.5, a preservation, which is mostly bonds, but stocks 4.4. So basically, answer Denise's questions here. We have a very tight shot group in what our rates of return expectations are, and this is where again my worry about stocks. I don't even know what our stocks doing today. I don't know. Yeah, down a little bit. The issue here is that a lot of people, and I think incorrectly, they assume the stock rate of return is based on the bond yields. They call that the equity risk premium. I've talked about this before, an ERP, equity risk premium, ERP. So a lot of people say is ERP, and they'll look historically, and they'll say stocks have given us 10, bonds have given us 6, whatever. 10 for stocks, bonds 6. I'm just literally using this for an example. And they'll subtract the two, and they'll say our equity risk premium is 4%. Which what that means is whatever you're getting on your bonds, you add 4% for equity risk premium for your stocks. I find that frightening, and I cannot believe how many people use that. My man James Glassman, who wrote Dow 30,000 in the late 90s, said that exact thing, the basis of his book, that stocks historically give you 4 to 5 to 6% above bonds. Thus, if bonds are giving you 6% back then, you can expect 12% on stocks. Thus, that's where you guys Dow 30,000. I think that number is crazy. I don't like that in the least. So I don't use an equity risk premium because I think it's dumb. I use instead earnings growth plus dividend yield is your rate of return for stock. So what we're doing here again is we're assuming an earnings growth. 1 second. So for stocks, the way, and this is a little bit more, this is all just gut feeling. And I use the Vanguard models. As Bogle came up with the earnings growth plus dividend yield equals rate of return for stocks. So this isn't me just pulling out my butt. I'm just using the Vanguard models. But 4% earnings growth plus a 2% dividend yield equals 6%. I mean, it's literally that simple. And people say, but earnings growth is this or earnings growth is that. Okay, that's great. I mean, okay. The question is, we're talking earnings growth future projections. And now I want to point out too, we had some snarky guy on here a couple of years ago said, oh, well, your numbers are wrong because in 2018, the market fell Q4. I think it was 2018. So the earnings growth were through the roof for 2018, but the S&P 500 was down like 5% because Q4. 2018. It was positive 2018. So you were wrong. And then in 2019, earnings growth was down, but the S&P 500 went up. It's not as seamless as I expect this year specifically. I'm making projections for a 20, 30-year retirement plan. You see what I'm saying? So, but the interesting thing was that snarky guy was right. 2018, while earnings growth is through the roof, the S&P 500 was down. 2019 earnings growth dropped. The S&P 500 was up. In the totality, though, it worked perfectly. Earnings growth plus dividend yield did exactly what the rate of return would have been if you average those 2 years out. Is actually amazing. And John Bogle's book "Common Sense on Mutual Funds" explains this actually quite well. Now, there's a third part of this, which a lot of people forget about, which is PE contraction or PE expansion. Now, I'll get your questions here in just a second. So price to earnings ratio, does it go up or go down? And so basically, this is the nosebleed valuation. So earnings growth plus dividend yield equals that right there. But we have to contend with, are people willing to pay more money for $1 of earnings or less money? So if they're willing to pay more money for $1 of earnings, that's price to earnings expansion. That's all speculation, man. That's all people say. Yeah, I think this stock is undervalued relative to the future growth rates, and I would be willing to pay $30 for $1 of earnings as opposed to 20. Now the problem with that is that's okay when the bonds are paying 2, but now we're getting bonds at 4 and 4.5 and 5. That would tell me that it's going to be PE contraction. People aren't willing to pay more for $1 of earnings when the alternative investments is a 5% bond with basically no risk. I just tell you, man, people, they don't understand this. And as such, they're, oh yeah, Jeremy's a YouTube channel. My man Jeremy says, where do I look up some research on Paul? Jesus Words Only YouTube channel. Jesus Words Only. My man Dougie Fresh on Jesus Words Only. Love that guy. He's responsive. Great guy. I'm not saying he's got all the answers, but he's a lawyer, so don't hold that against him. But Jesus Words Only YouTube channel, and he's got this great book as Jesus. What is it? It's it'll rock your world, baby. JesusWordsOnly.github.io. Oh, this guy, I can read his stuff all day long. It's actually, why do I enjoy it so much? I don't know. So that's JesusWordsOnly.github.io. I do worry for my own sake here is that here it is. So here's JesusWordsOnly.git right here. And he's got this, it's just so much stuff in here. It's nuts, man. Competing love for Paul, Pauline doctrine. Yeah, that Boltman, right? That guy right there. That guy's Rudolph Boltman. I don't like him, dudes. Jesus. And then we talk about, he's got stuff on John. Where's down here someplace? There's so much stuff in here. It's insane. But he's got stuff on John because they'll say, well, John, in the book of John, it says blah, blah, blah. And then my man Dougie Fresh, he obliterates that. And it's and I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying it's right, but I am saying I have a new respect for Bart Ehrman, if that makes sense. Any of y'all familiar with Bart Ehrman? Anyway, I just that doesn't mean I believe Bart Ehrman is all that in a bag of chips. I always discounted Bart Ehrman because I didn't know, man. I didn't do the research. All right, let's keep going here. All right, so my man's missing the point here. Cap Arn. Barns are a safe investment. Yes, they are. We know that if you're getting a 4% coupon, if you're getting a 4% current yield, you're going to get that current yield until the bond matures. So that's a safe investment as long as you hold it. In terms of any given day, the price of a bond could go down. All right, so my man Sean, he says, all right, good. So let me get some of these questions here. All right, hold on. And it's all good, Boss Tweed. Boss Tweed, I get it. Well, we're it's okay to be goofing off here. What is Sean Mack? Would I ever be doing a military retirement friendly states? It's the South for sure, in South Dakota. um, yeah. Well, who said Napoleon? History is what we've. What did Napoleon say about history? Is what we've agreed that history is, or something like that. I'm dropping back. All right. All right. Jill says the V and the C are different as truth was made by man and covered up by man. Very, yeah. I get it. I'm not, but I mean, but that doesn't mean man can't make up theology too, though. I mean, if that makes sense. I mean, if mans are corrupting the Bible, the good book, as they provenly have, why are they doing that? Smyrna, Georgia was up. Eric Catherine was up. I live in Smyrna. Need retirement plan for 40-year-old. If you're only 40, dude, Eric, just keep plugging away, brother. I mean, just keep freaking putting money in. Stop paying. I mean, don't take on debt. Just keep plugging money away. Just keep doing that. And literally pay off debt. Keep plugging. There's nothing to do. I mean, estate planning. If you got kids, have a will. Have a durable power of attorney. Make sure you have guardianship 100%. But if you're only 40 years old, you just keep plugging, man. Keep putting money away. Watch your freaking intake in terms of expenditures. You got to expenditures will eat you alive, man. So stop doing that. Vaughn, I thought he was using 5% for stocks. No, I'm using six, and that's nominal. By the way, Vaughn. All right, so here's my man. So big guy, 6'10", boating. 6'10", is that in Pennsylvania, right? That's outside Philadelphia, isn't it? I have energy transfer in my traditional IRA, which I did not contribute to anymore. Well, energy transfer pays tons of freaking dividends. So I don't know why you would say, I don't get it, brother. Why are you saying, I'm not sure why you say you did a boo-boo in your IRA. ET, energy transfer. No, I don't get it. Why would you say you did a boo-boo in your IRA? I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. I don't get it. Why? Um, no, I don't think so. All right, here's Stormy Daniels, MJ Stormy. If I wait till I'm 70 to claim Social Security, my wife claims on her account early. Okay. When I claim, will she'll be eligible for half my PIA or be? Yeah, she'll be a great question, Stormy. If I wait until I'm 70 and my wife claims hers early before she's her full retirement age, when I claim, will she'll be eligible for half my PIA or will be reduced because she claimed early? The answer is will be reduced because she claimed early. That's a great question, though, man. That's a very good question. And just side note, I mean, look, I'm a professional financial planner. It took me a freaking hell of a long time to understand the difference between spousal and survival benefits. I'm telling you, don't be hard on yourself, my friends. If you guys aren't, I should put this in here. I think I can put this in here too, Jeremy. Yeah, there you go, sweet. Don't be hard on yourselves if you're not quite grasping Social Security. It's tough, dudes. And I'm, maybe I'm just a freaking caveman financial planner, but I don't think I'm dumb. And I think I like to read, so I'm not ignorant about opening a book or two. But it took me a long time to understand the difference between survivor and spousal benefits. And so what MJ Stormy's saying, MJ Stormy Daniels is saying is that spousal benefits, his wife, because she took her benefits early, her spousal benefit will be reduced when Stormy files. Now, when Stormy dies, her survivor benefit will not be reduced. It won't be reduced. Remember, OASDI, OA, old age. That's your retirement benefit, old age. S, survivor benefit. There's no spousal benefit in there. So spousal benefit is part of OA. OA, old age, the retirement benefit. Survivor benefit is separate. It's its own unique thing. It has not reduced. If Miss Stormy took her benefit early, and then Mr. Stormy dies, Miss Stormy is going to get the full benefit that Mr. got. It won't be reduced, even though she filed her own claim early, assuming that her benefit is lower than his, by the way. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, 100%. So John says productivity increases, reduce switching to cheap labor the last decade. I completely agree. And going green is not it's a negative to productivity, or I should say negative to expenditures. 100% in terms of earnings. A negative to earnings where I was going with this, because it increases expense. This whole thing about you would still be in a horse and buggy, like comparing a horse and buggy to the internal combustion engine as equivalent to the ICE versus an EV might be the stupidest thing ever done in mankind. It's insane. And people do this all the time. I'm just like, it's literally the stupidest thing in history. Oh, so you would have been wanting to still drive a horse and buggy when they introduced the internal combustion engine? No, I would not have. Well, it's the same thing with EVs. No, it's not. An EV is three steps back. All right. I didn't see your question, Sean. Where's your question? Did Sean? Yeah. So Sean, I see your question, man. So where did you put it? So if you want to type it again there. And that's a question from Sean Maddox. Oh, and so there's going back to John's thing too. The numbers I was using for stocks is 6%, bonds is 4%. That's nominal. So you factor in inflation there, and I'm using a 5.5% rate of inflation for healthcare, guys. I think the overall inflation, when all said and done with healthcare and basic cost of living, is about 3.5. All right, so we're putting heavy in, that's not a cheap inflation, that's for sure. And I'm only using 2.4% cost of living for Social Security and Right Capital. All right, so just FYI, we're coming out pretty freaking, pretty bad relative to healthcare inflation, 5.5, cost of living for Social Security, 2.4. And the last year's Social Security trustee report, I mean, I looked at it pretty good. I can't say I read top to bottom, but I did more than a cursory look. I didn't see any changes of their projections of future Social Security other than just last year. But it was 2.6. They dropped to 2.4. I did not see they changed that from 2.4, even though last year is 9, whatever they gave us for COLA. So I use what CMS says for Medicare or healthcare as a whole, and then I use what SSA does, which is Social Security Administration for Social Security. So if I miss something there, where Social Security trustee says no, they think on average the rate of return, the cost of living will be 2.6, what it was, as opposed to 2.4, which I've been using for the last couple of years. Someone let me know. I just didn't see that actually. And the new trustees report I think comes out in May, so we'll see what that looks like. Yeah, Jeremy, I can't have calf anymore. I'm literally giving up calf. My man Paul from Pockets of the Future on YouTube was having a lot of heart issues, and he gave up caffeine, and all of his heart issues went away. And I said I wasn't having heart issues, but having a lot of heartburn, heartburn. Gave up caffeine, don't have it hardly anymore at all. It's crazy, man. Caffeine. It occurred to me. Remember, about a year and a half ago, I was up in Maine, and I went to the ER. And I was freaking scared. It's like, dude, what the hell? Anyway, and it occurred to me not that long ago, because I was literally dizzy, and I had my heart was just like I had massive heart digestion, heartburn, whatever, to the point it was even a little bit on my left arm. I was like, am I having a heart attack or something? But it was weird, man. Was it my left arm? Maybe it was my right arm. I think it was my right. I don't think it was my left. I think it was my right, because I remember if your left, that means a heart attack. It wasn't my. So anyway, but my heart was like, damn, and I was like dizzy. I think it was my right arm. Now I think about it. So I called my beautiful, and she goes, yeah, maybe you should go to a clinic up there. But I was in Machias, Maine. There's no one in Machias, Maine, but they did have like an emergency room. So I went in there, put my mask on like a good soldier, and And they did all the stuff, whatever. And they said, no, you look fine. Your brainwaves are fine. Everything looks fine. And I said, well, it must have been because I ate like, so I got in the night before. I didn't eat anything. Went straight to my hotel, went nights. I woke up and I had like 3 cups of coffee. You know what I'm saying? Like a big Dunkin' Donuts one, a couple at the hotel, all calf. I went on the road. I was driving, and then at about 11 o'clock, maybe 12, I went to lunch, and I had freaking a hamburger with fries because I was doing intermittent fasting where I just ate one big meal. You know what I'm saying? This isn't really how you should do it, by the way. Vanilla milkshake, and then she had some fried clams, and so I was hungry on an empty stomach, so I just went, just like when I was in the army, you just go, just be giant sucking sound to the south with my mouth, and I ate it all like in 10 seconds flat. You know what I'm saying? And real quick, maybe you guys will get bored. I won't tell you stories. But anyway, so so I'm driving, and all of a sudden I'm just like, whoa! I felt like crap. And it occurred to me, it must have been the massive intake of caffeine on an empty stomach with carbs. I had a massive intake of carbs with a hamburger, French fries, fried clams, and then a vanilla milkshake. And it was crazy, dudes. But anyway, it was crazy. I'll never forget. So the long story short, I started thinking like I still have heartburn. I was like, what is going on? Not that much, but enough where it really bothers me when it happens. And Paul from Pockets of the Future, he just said he gave up caffeine, gone. I said, man, I'm gonna have to do that myself. And he's right, dude. It's gone. So I can't say gone. I still have every now and again I'll get a little bit hit of heartburn, but not the extent that I used to. And I'm already a hyper enough guy. I don't need caffeine. I got too much I'm too hyper as it is, dudes. You know what I'm saying? And I don't take any of my. So by the way, just as a side note, I think I've said this before. I used to take Lexapro. I've told this, I think. I'm going to say it again anyway. Lexapro was like a poor man's version of Zoloft or something like that, just to kind of lighten the load on your fired upness, if that makes sense. I don't take that anymore. And so I'm a little bit quicker on the trigger. Not going to lie to you. I mean, that's a fact. I asked my wife, she goes, I didn't notice a difference. So that's good. So I'm basically a little bit quicker on the trigger here on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? But oh well. I don't trust Big Pharma for anything. I don't trust them. And the way they did statins, never mind the stupid COVID crap. Statins, is we know what's going on with statins. There's a lot of issues there. And I said, I wonder if they've ever done any studies on Lexapro and memory. You see what I'm saying? And because of statins, there's evidence, significant evidence of statins making you lose your memory. I said, I wonder if they've done that with Lexapro. And I don't know the answer to that. I looked it up, and some of the side effects, the basic side effects that they'll always say for everything. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, so I gave it up because I don't trust any of these guys that they've done any kind of research on this, because why would they? They don't need to. They could say, no, we don't. Why would they do a research on brain functioning after taking Lexapro? I mean, and I don't blame Big Pharma for that, Frank. How could you possibly do that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know how you would do that. Say, hey, you took Lexapro for 20 years. It turns out you got dementia. We can attribute that to Lexapro because we did a randomized control trial, and the 20,000 people who did Lexapro, 18,000 had dementia. The 20,000 who did the what I'm talking about, the saline version of it, whatever, the what the hell I'm talking about. What the hell's that called? That's fake. Anyway, whatever. They don't have it. Thus, we can pretty much conclude that Lexapro leads to some sort of dementia. I can't expect that to happen. But anyway, given what we knew about statins and other things too, I don't trust them as far as I could kick them. So I gave up Lexapro. I've given up caffeine. I'm really trying to give up even like the fake sweeteners, aspartame, that whole ethanol thing that's out there lately, the last couple of weeks. I don't care about that. I'm not. That's stupid. But aspartame is a big one for me. And I'm trying to give that up too. So I'm just trying to be very conscious of my intake, because I don't want to lose my mind, dude. I'm 52 years old. I'm not trying to freaking be sitting there and not knowing who my kids are. You know what I'm saying? I deal with enough people who's got parents who are in a bad way, and I was like, that sucks, man. I don't want that to happen to my kids. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going here. Rusty Wench. I said Rusty Wench. Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. Freudian blunder. Rusty Wench. He announces he's here. So everybody, he's late. How dare he? Yes, Penelope got it right. Okay, so we just talked about inflation. Hey, look, there you go, man. All right, Rusty Wench. What are you gonna start doing with your time, man? PHJQX age-based retirement. Was that some kind of mutual fund? HJQX. Oh yeah, it's just a target fund. I got no qualm with it. I wonder see what the fees are on this guy. Let's take a look. PHJQ. It's a principal, which is an insurance company. So I bet the fees are high on this guy. Let's take a look here. I'm predicting 0.89. That's my prediction. Who wants to? What is it? No, it's not Yahoo. Okay, hold on a second. We go here. Boink. Go to finance.yahoo.com. 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 Stocks waver amid continued job strength. Isn't that funny? I think I just read that Morgan Stanley or something like that said there'd be 1 million less jobs today. I guess that didn't get reported, huh? All right, so let's take a look. Fees on this guy are, that's not bad, 0.35. Yeah, I got no problem with that. Whoever asked that, as long as the fees are low, doesn't have much of a track record. I like Morningstar. I use Morningstar return. So Morningstar gives it 4 stars. Fees are low. Take a look at the holdings. If they're holding other funds, that's going to tick me off though, because that just adds to the fees that you don't see. So let's see what their holdings are. Yeah, see, all right. Well, at least this is what drives up the wall. So here at least these are index funds, but they're holding other index funds in their portfolio. That adds to the fees. All right, so this fee right here, where to go? Right here. Let me show you. So this fee right here does not include the fees on the other funds. So you might have a fund of funds that only charges you 50 basis points, but they're investing in freaking crazy expensive funds. Your all-in fee is 1.5, even though you don't never know that. But that seems okay to me. Whoever said that, was that guy's name? That was Don Stewart, right? Yeah, so that seems all right. I got no qualm with it. Yeah, I don't get what do you mean tax issues. It's anything that is in an IRA is going to have tax issues. So I mean, voting, who doesn't want to, he wants to float the boat. He says, what are the tax issues on having energy transfer in his IRA? Well, you're getting dividends on energy transfer. It's all going to be taxed as ordinary income, anything that comes out. So that could be a problem for sure. As opposed to being in a brokerage account, but then it's qualified dividends. But I don't think it's that big a deal. We got my man John. I can't remember. I was discussing this with my wife. Told her I was scared. Then you post a video. Yeah, there you go, man. Right on. So we talked about why John or Bob, I can't remember, was scared to retire, and and by the way, my man. Oh, I did want to show you guys something here too, because Denise made me worried that I seemed like I mocked this guy from the video I did earlier today. I was like, I didn't mean to. I was like, I hope that didn't come across. So here's my man right here. So this is let me see. Hold on a second. I want to go to the. Let me stop sharing. I want to go to my comments. One second. Let me get back here. We gotta go to Studio. Content. Bear me just a second, amigos. Oh, And also try and do 100 push-ups a day and 4 sets of 6 pull-ups a day. That's my goal. 100 push-ups a day and 4 sets. And I still want to get walk every. Now it's getting nice out again, so I want to walk every day as well. So that's my goal here to try to maintain this beautiful body. All right, so here we go. Here are comments. 100 push-ups a day, 4 sets of 6 pull-ups, and walking, or high what is it called? High frequency trading, high frequency, whatever it is, high carb, whatever it is, high stress thing. I can't remember what it's called. All right, so let's go down here. So we're gonna go to right here, comments. All right, here we go. All right, so this is the video of the guy. He's worried about losing his home. And he actually wrote in, which is good, man. So I appreciate him right here. Slim Tim. So I want to share. All right, right here. So this is good stuff. I appreciate him writing in. So let me paint the picture. If you haven't seen the video, and again, if I came across like I'm laughing at him, I was going to delete the video. Then Penelope said she didn't think so. That good. So Denise made me nervous. Like, dude, I'm not trying to laugh at anybody and they're scared as hell. That's not what I meant to do. I guess I laugh when I'm so pissed off at the industry, how they make everyone scared of their own freaking shadows. It's nuts, man. Anyway, so high intensity training. There you go. Right on. High intensity training. That's what it's called. All right. So what we go to is my man said, he's living well within his means. He has no debt whatsoever. He's worried he's going to lose his house. I said, damn, what the hell, man? Like, it's sickening that people can worry this bad about stuff. And the reason was for inflation. So we're going to go to the comments. And so he chimed in about, so he gave us a situation report, a sit rep, as we call. Josh, thanks for addressing my concerns. Just to clarify, the huge increases in taxes on my home is a real concern. Many folks across the nation are having issues addressing the huge upswing in land taxes as municipalities and states have raised the so-called worth of our homes. While mine has been paid off for several years, the taxes to continue to grow at an alarming rate. When I first purchased so this is one yes, I do have my calculator. So I want to point this out. When I first purchased my home, the taxes were $800 a year. All right, $800 a year. They're now $4K. And if memory serves, I think he said it was 20 years ago. I saw 20 years in here, something like that. I can't remember. All right, so let's all right, well, let me just keep going for a second, because I'm sitting there thinking, okay. Well, they're locked down a bit because we're over 65. It doesn't prevent them from continuing to rise as the tax laws seem to delay in raising the supposed worth of our homes. Okay. I purchased some property in East Texas over 20 years ago, had nothing on it, and the taxes are $200. Now they're $1,100 a year. So he pays $5,100 a year in property tax. Now notice he pays no income tax, first of all. All right. So now I'm not trying to belabor this, but you never paid income tax in the state of Texas, dude. That's why you're paying higher property tax. Just a fact. You never paid income tax. So that's why I think you better be careful before moving to Texas in retirement. You might want to move to Alabama instead, or Louisiana, where the property taxes are lower, even though there's an income tax, because it's easy to reduce your income. We don't have to pay, well, not so easy, but it's easier to have little to no income tax than it is to have little to no property tax. Texas is supposed to be one of the cheapest energy costs in the United States. No, it's not. It's not one of the cheapest, and I'm not sure who said it's supposed to be. Yet, thanks to Sniffy Joe, our costs have gone up by about 40% for energy. Well, that is something to do with Sniffy Joe. I grant you that, but let's keep going. Not to mention the incessant rise in food costs. All right, we have an abundance of food being raised here, but the pandemic and poor leadership, even in Texas, caused a sharp increase in food. All right, then he talks about illegals impact on. I completely agree. But anyway, I said, don't blame Sniffy Joe Texas energy problems. Blame the GOP who sold out the big win. Governor Abbott, Governor Perry, and all that. All clowns. But with that said, Sniffy Joe and the stupid wars and stuff, I completely agree. But with that said, the high cost of electricity in Texas came well before Sniffy Joe. And I said, what are your expenses? And then he said, he didn't respond on the expenses. Anyway, so the issue is that, all right, so I just want to point out his property tax went from $800 a year to 4,000 a year. And again, I got 20, I guess, because I don't know how long he's been in the house. 20 years, I don't know. But his real estate taxes in East Texas are 1,000, went from 2,000 to 1,100 over 20 years. I'm sorry, that's not a huge issue. I don't, it's just not that in of itself is not a make or break thing. It's just not. I'm sorry. The cost of energy is a bad deal, but that's a bad deal everywhere. And that's deliberately done, as Obama said. Under my plan, the cost of electricity will inherently have to spike. That's Obama. Obama said that. And everyone said, I still want to vote for the first black guy to prove I'm not racist. And then you proved you weren't racist and it didn't buy anything, did it now? Not this guy. I'm just saying. I want to vote for Obama so I can show the world I'm not racist. Yeah, they didn't care because it's all fake, all fake. Anyway, so he didn't respond back to my question on expenses, because the question on expenses, what that has to do with is like, all right, so if you're spending 60,000 a year, all right, and your property taxes are 5,000 a year, that seems, I'm not saying it's minimal, but it's not the biggest expense you have by any stretch of the imagination, even if those property taxes went up 20%. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, the energy is the issue, but the energy is deliberate, and so you're gonna stay at work, so to deal with the insanity of the energy cost. Not this guy, but I'm just saying that doesn't make any sense. So they're gonna make me pay more for energy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna still work for the man. No, don't do that. A dumb man. You got at some point you gotta say I gotta separate myself. Yeah, there's not much you can do. I mean, you can certainly turn off your lights, get LEDs, don't use as much, consume as much electricity and all that stuff. You get solar if you want. That ain't cheap. And you're going to have to get a battery bank as well. Again, if you're not getting a battery bank on solar, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever. It's okay. I'm not yelling at you. But if you want to reduce electricity costs, there's the easiest ways is just to reduce your load. Don't use much electricity. It's just that simple. But anyway, so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, let's just say he spends 60,000 a year. So the property taxes went up from 800 to, what do you say, 4,000 over the course of how many years? I don't find that to be a make or break issue. I just don't. I mean, if you're spending 10,000 a year, yes. If you're spending 60,000 a year, which I got a sneaky suspicion is probably more along the lines, not that big of a deal. And then we factor in CPI. Well, what does CPI have you spending on housing costs? 45%. Because of OER and rental, but you're not renting and you don't rent from yourself either. So that's the reality inflation, which I talk about in my soon to becoming book, which I work on every day, is your housing costs aren't nearly what the CPI is stating once they're paid off. Even if you got a mortgage, they're not nearly what CPI is stating anyway, because you got a fixed rate mortgage. It's freaking stupid, dude. It's freaking dumb. And so, okay, cost of foods have gone up. Well, that's true. But have they gone up that much for the last 10 years? No. Come on. I mean, it just haven't gone up that much. Yeah, we had a run last year. That sucks. Where are eggs now? Eggs are back down to, a little bit higher than they were, but still they come back down. Price of gas is down. Price of electricity is down because we had a warmer, what do they say? They had a warmer winter in, I want to say New York or something like that. And so anyway, the spot prices are way lower than what that storm didn't hit New York State, or I can't remember what it was, but something happened where New York State, the spot prices dropped quite a bit in electricity because it wasn't nearly as cold as what they expected for that storm to bypass. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, hey, my wife's on board. You want to hear a bit? Point being is that, all right, so food's gone up. How much is your consumption on food? Let's say you're spending $10,000 a year. All right. Let's say food goes up by 9%. That's an extra $900. Your property taxes, you're spending $4,000 on property taxes. Your property taxes go up by 20%. That's an extra $80, something like that. Yeah. $800. That's an extra $800. So we got an extra $900 on food, $800 on property tax. All right. Energy costs went up 40%. Let's just say you're spending, I don't know, 5,000 a year on energy. That's all in electricity, water, the whole thing. Your energy went up by 4,000, 40%. That's 2,000 extra bucks. So we have $800 for property tax for we have, what do we say? I can't remember what I said, but all in all, that's an increase in your cost of what, $6,000, something like that, on a $60,000 income or expenditure. So your cost went up by 10%, and Social Security turned around and gave you 9.37 or whatever it was. To have the fear of losing my house, that just seems a little bit crazy to me, frankly. Why? I mean, I don't get it, man. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, unless we're missing something significant. I just don't understand. Your Social Security almost kept up with all those expenses. Not quite, but almost did. And that's why you have some savings. I mean, not to have savings won't be smart. You got to have some savings. But why? So I think what Tim was actually doing more so than anything was challenging my inflation stuff. I don't think he's all that worried about being put out of his house. He has 2 properties, it seems like. And I think it's kind of a backdoor way to say, I think you're wrong on inflation. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But I think when you actually look at your expenditures and the increases of those expenditures from an inflationary perspective, and then you look at your increases in your Social Security, I think it doesn't quite become a wash, but it certainly comes close. Certainly more so than you're not going to be put out of your house. And when you have a second house, it turns out it seems a little bit, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? It seems a little bit, I'm not going to say disingenuous, because I don't think it's truly disingenuous. It just seems a little bit of a overly concerned, a little bit of a challenge to your old buddy Josh, and without being explicit about it, which is okay. But I just think people need to take some time and say, what am I spending my money on? And they don't. They say, what am I spending my money on? Property tax went up 40%. All right. If I'm spending $60,000 a year, my property taxes went up from, say you got $4,000 a year property taxes, they go up by 40%, which I highly suspect they won't. But just say they did. That's an increase in what, $1,600, $1,600. All right. So now your total expenditures is $60,000. All right, your property taxes went up by $1,600. That means you're going to be put out. Anyway, let's keep going here. All right, email me, Jim, and I'll fix that. I got it. Yeah, it's stupid. Oh, thanks, babe. Stupid Right Capital. It's not actually. They don't. I wish I could just click a button. So what happens is at Right Capital, every year come November, everybody and their mom emails me bitching and griping. They're saying, "Oh, this is showing the numbers are wrong," and they're right. They're right, by the way. I probably get 20 emails in November, October, November, because it's showing as if the end of the year, the start of the year hasn't happened yet. I don't want to explain this too much, but so they're basically saying if it's October, we're basically starting the calendar year. It's not starting the calendar year. Basically, if you plan to sell your house, let's just say in August, all right, in Right Capital it says, "Oh, you haven't sold your house yet, so we're selling it in October." It's just weird, and so everyone says, "Josh, the numbers are way off," and I know what it is, so I have to say, "Okay, we got to start for next calendar year instead," and then I have to go in there and manually do that, which is kind of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal, so that makes it correct. So that way you can stay starting in next year in 2024. So then 2023. So then 2023 comes, and for the people who I changed it to start the next year, now it's pretending like 2023 doesn't exist. And I don't have one way to just go in there and click the whole thing to change it for everybody. I have to go each individually, which drives me up the wall. I don't know why I can't just say start it in the calendar year per my whole client base, 2023, 2024. The alternative to that is you can start on a calendar month, and you would think that'd be the way to go. It's not, and I haven't dove into it enough, but starting at the calendar month doesn't work as well either. So anyway, Jim, just email me and I'll fix it for you. If any of you guys see you have the same thing, that 2023 doesn't exist, starting at 2024, I just got to go in there manually change it. So just email me and I'll do that. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, for me, it sucks to have to do that each individually, but it's not that big of a deal for me to have to do that. It probably takes 2 minutes per click. Still 2 minutes per click is, I wish I could just do it for 2 minutes per everybody. All right. The Ethiopian Bible. There you go. So the Ethiopian Bible is 800 years older than the King James. Well, that doesn't mean, I mean, think about King James, though, 1600s. That means the Ethiopian Bible would be, what, 800? All right. So that's still not ancient, that's for sure. All right. Right here. Looking forward to mortgage payoff video. Our distributions from an inherited Roth IRA included in Maggie. I don't know why that would be. Inherited Roth IRA. Why would I don't think so, but you have to check on that. Off the top of my head, I don't know. If it's from a Roth, I can't imagine that. But I don't go out there freaking lighting cigars and $100 bills. What you're hearing off me here on YouTube. But I don't know why that would be. There you go. Is 4 years about to retire in your? Is 4 years about to retire in my mind? Is 4 years? I'm not sure what you're saying, Sean. Is 4 years about to retire in my mind? Are you asking me if I'm going to retire in 4 years? Yeah, well, for me, if I can still do videos on YouTube, see, I love this stuff, man. I mean, believe it or not, I know there's a lot of guys out there who have bigger audiences, and they get bigger. I enjoy it. I enjoy getting on YouTube and yapping. It's fun. So as long as YouTube has me, I'll keep doing this. And if they pay me, I'll keep doing it even better, right? But in terms of like taking clients on, I don't think I'll be doing that in 4 years. Actually, I'm to be perfectly honest. I'm hoping there'll become a time in the next year where I just do annual reviews for people and don't even take on any new clients. Depends on the current where I'm at financially. I'm not nearly this last year, because we put this back porch thing on. It set me back on my whole goal is, once my mortgage is paid off, I'm done. That's all there is to it. And last year it set me back a little bit more from having that mortgage paid off is earlier than I wanted to. So maybe put it back later. So once that sucker's paid off, I'm not taking any more clients. I'm done. Just do the annual reviews for people, and that's it. That's fun because I get to see how people are progressing. But that'd be my goal. I don't know when that's going to be. Hopefully before 4 years. I'll tell you that right now. That's my goal. Okay. Yeah, 100%, Ed. Yeah, right. We had electric vehicles 100 years ago. In fact, I have you'll get a kick out of this. Steady Eddie. Hold on a second. I have an article someplace about electric vehicles back in the day. I'll find it, man. It's way cool. Ooh, the gravitational electromagnetic analogy. What? What? The gravitational electromagnetic analogy, a possible solution to the vacuum energy and dark energy problems? There's a problem with dark energy? There's a problem with dark matter? Yes, because if we can't prove dark matter, it invalidates everything Einstein said out of his friggin' plagiarizing mouth. And we can't prove it. It's crazy. And everyone's fallen for this for 100 years. Anyway, so I'm going to show you guys something that's fun. So we're going to go to my newspapers.com collection. And I'll share with you. So let's see here. We're going to log in and we're going to show you my clippings. If I can find it. My clippings right there. All right. So let's read my clippings. I freaking love newspapers.com. Y'all remember Stouffer's stovetop stuffing, right? So I'm going to going down here. You're probably got to be a little bit older than, you're going to have to be my age or older, most likely. All right, so Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. Put a 1 if you remember that, or a 2 if you don't. Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. Let's see what we got. A 1 if you remember Stouffer's stovetop stuffing, or a 2 if you don't. Put that in there, because I'd like to see what people see. So a 1 means you remember Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. A 2 means you don't remember Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. We already got 4 1s, 5, 6, 7. Huh. Interesting. We all remember Stouffer, even Jill. Look at that. Yes, ma'am. We all remember Stouffer stovetop stuffing. Everybody does. Everybody does. Yes, sir. But you know what? It never existed. In this reality, there's no such thing as Stouffer stovetop stuffing. Obviously, the people who don't remember aren't going to comment. I get that. But there's a lot of people on there, my friends, who remember Stouffer stovetop stuffing. And this reality doesn't exist. Look it up. There's no such thing. We're all misremembering this. All misremembering this. And this right here is called, we got it right here. What's it called that? I can't remember, but this is the Mandela effect. It changed, dude. There's no other. We all remember Stouffer stovetop stuffing. And yet, if you look it up, you just type it. Did Stouffer stovetop stuffing exist? No, it never did. It's all misremembering. Why would we misremember that? And yet, here is a residue right there. Stouffer stovetop stuffing. You can see it right there. I printed this off because I want to save for posterity when people try to say, no, there's no such thing as Stouffer stovetop stuffing. Yes, there is. No, you're wrong. No, I'm not. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. All right, so let's keep going down here. Cost of food, 1870. So this is all the stuff I've been doing on my, the U.S. is the biggest debtor nation right here. This is from AP from 1986. Some economists contend that the country can't be classified with third world debtors because the U.S. debt represents a smaller portion of the country's, used to call it GNP, now GDP. The U.S. became the world's largest debtor nation last year, surpassing the developing nations of Brazil and Mexico for the honor. The Commerce Department said the deficit, now they're saying deficit, I think that's debt. This is where people screw this up. The deficit is your cash flow, your negatives, you know, opposite of surplus, your deficit, and that adds to your debt. The Commerce Department said the deficit at the end of the year was $107 billion. That's not the deficit in 1986. That's a debt. Let's see. No, they were saying that's a debt. Okay, there you go. I'm wrong. There you go. The Commerce. Wow, we had a $107 billion deficit under old Ronnie Reagan. Whereas last year they had a surplus of 4. I don't buy that. I don't think we had a surplus. We didn't have a surplus in 1980s. But either way, I guess that's right. They had a deficit of 107 billion, whereas previous year they had a surplus of 4.4. I don't think that's right. Anyway, the new report said American foreign investments in the United States soared 18.6% during the same period to $1.059 trillion. Wow. While analysts for some time estimated the U.S. We'll see here. I want to see some economists predict the U.S. debt will hit $250 billion by the end of the year, easily top the $500 billion by the end of the decade. Our economists are divided how serious an economic threat are. Let's see. But many private analysts have expressed worries that the U.S. economy could be held hostage to the whims of foreign investors. Oh, my goodness. We never heard that before. We have moved from being the largest creditor in the world to the largest debtor, says some guy. The pace of deterioration has been incredibly rapid. He predicted the U.S. debt will climb to $500 billion. It could even hit $1 trillion unless the dollar weakens further. Huh? At those levels, the rest of the world will have a lot of leverage. We will be vulnerable to foreign withdrawal of funds and possible foreign pressure on our foreign economic policies. Some analysts have expressed fears that if foreigners' excitement at holding American investments begins to fade, interest rates will need to increase to get the demand back. Wow, that never happened. That's kind of weird. What happened with that? Doesn't mean it can't. Just mean that's 35 years ago and that didn't even happen. Let's keep going down here. I want to see. This is interesting. The birth of Zionism. Very interesting right here. I got a lot out of that right there. I'm not going to read that here. Let's see. Too much power at the top. Let's see. Bond fund return 10.5% from 1979 to 1996. Russians still worried about the Van Allen belt. I want to go to the EV thing though. Blacks taking better care of in slavery. What? That's what this article said here. Freaking nuts. What a media was. Oh my goodness. It's crazy. Like, literally, there's what they were saying. I'm not going to get to that, but it's just I kind of chuckled at that. Electric car success in 1911. This is what I want to read. 1911. The Des Moines Evening register or something like that. New era in electric cars. Thomas Edison, new storage batteries cause a revolution, he says. Short life cells are a thing of the past. Removes last objection to electric car used by advocates of gas. If that doesn't wet your willy, nothing will. Oh my goodness. In the perfection of his new storage battery, Thomas Edison has inaugurated a new era in electric locomotion. The successful efforts of the electrical wizard will revolutionize the commercial adoption of vehicles propelled by their own power. The new batteries supply a long-felt want in the electrical world and remove all objections to the electric vehicle. In the past, the sale of EVs have been limited on account of the short mileage of batteries. Neither could the cars produce the capacity and the speed desirable. The Edison battery makes possible a mileage at least twice as great and gives a speed of more than 20 miles an hour. In the old batteries, the sulfuric acid eats up the steel. If overcharged or left uncharged, and the machine is put on out of commission. The lead battery cannot be discharged rapidly, and it takes 4 times as long to charge them as is necessary to charge the Edison battery. All the difficulties of the lead storage battery have been done away with. Oh my goodness. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? They've done all the issues that we had to, it's like literally, that was from 1911, my friends. 1911. No, we never heard that before. 100% Ed. You could just change the friggin' snakes in the grass for Elon Musk and Thomas Edison. All snakes in the grass, dude. 100%. Isn't that? Yeah, you saw that? You saw that 59-cent banquet TV? Crazy. Isn't that funny? All right, so let's keep going. I missed some guys' questions here. So compound annual growth rate over 20 years, 8.38% over 20 years. Yeah, and it's not cheap, but that's to $4,000. So are we going to model our inflation on that? So again, what you do is you got to do some basic stuff here. And this is what I will show you in my book. You keep talking about your book. I know. I want it right, dude. That's the thing. I want it to be correct. I don't want to just throw it out there, fancy pants. I want it to be right. So what we say is, how much, my man was right here, Tom says 8.83. So what we do is we take, how much are we, let's just say we spend 5% of our expenditures on real estate. So we're going to 0.05, and then we times that by 0.0838. So this is how you get your own inflation numbers, man. 0.05 times 0.0838. You take your trusty calculator from many, many moons ago when Texas Instruments was made by Americans, and you type 0.05 times 0.0838. So times 0.0838. So that would equate to, of your total expenditures, that'd be 0.41% of your total inflation would be geared towards this right here. This is how you do it. You take your expenditures and you weight. This is how you create, literally how you create your own CPI. This is what I'm going to write about my book about. You take your actual expenditures, you weight them according to your, like again, if property tax are 5% of your expenditures, you take 5, which is 0.05%. You times that by the compound annual growth rate that Tom just did, 0.0838. That means of your total inflation, 0.41% is there. 0.41%. Now, if your expenditures are on property taxes are 20%, right? So now we go to 0.2. This is literally how BLS does it with CPI, until they came up with the insanity of OER, and which is just freaking stupid. I mean, OER is just literally, what the hell? The same people who created the moon landing, the lunar module, did OER, meth heads. Because if you ever looked at the lunar module, you're like, no one went on that, dude. Come on, it's freaking tape. Oh my! You look at it, you're like, wow, it's literally Scotch tape on there. It's so, and then you can literally poke your finger through it. That's not me saying it. That's the astronaut's saying it. Ah, masking tape and Scotch tape. Never mind. I'm just curious. How do the cameras? Weird. So the cameras back in the day, how did just Neil Armstrong just take out a camera, start popping pictures when in the sun it was 250 degrees, and then in the shade it was negative 250 degrees, and the cameras just started taking wonderful pictures with no issues on the the. So if you look at the hold on a second, oh, come here. Here goes Pablo. Pablo wants to chime in about the moon landing. When you look at the negatives and the pictures, there's no radiation. There's no negative stuff on that. It's pure as a wind-driven snow, even though it's just a good old-fashioned camera. 250 degrees in the heat, 250 degrees in the cold, and literally he's going from shade to sun, and you actually see better pictures than if you did now went through a freaking thing at the airport, the X-ray thing at the airport terminal. The pictures are crisper from Neil Armstrong from 1969 than if you actually went through X-ray machine at the terminal and from a camera today. Yeah, that's weird. Never mind the cold, the moving parts, all the mechanism to make that sucker work. Never mind all the radiation because there is no atmosphere. Look, even Pablo's like, see, Pablo looks like he designed the lunar module. Look at him. He's like, dude, I'm a meth head. I designed the lunar module. I mean, come on. Just and the hits just keep coming like that. So you can believe it. That's fine. I don't yell at you. I just the issue is once you start seeing this more and more, you're like, that's an awful lot to say happened because my brother-in-law saw the first Apollo capsule. Okay. All right. So 0.2 times 0.0. Never mind, just real quick. Never mind the fact that astronauts even today are saying we can't get out of lower Earth atmosphere. We don't have the technology because the Van Allen radiation belt. Now, I'm not even sure the Van Allen radiation belt exists. I don't know. I don't believe anybody anymore. But that's what they're saying. That's what NASA's saying. We can't get out of lower Earth orbit because of Van Allen radiation belt. Yeah, that's it. All right, never mind. It's weird. All right. Anyway, so we got a 20%. If 20% of your expenditures goes to real estate taxes, then this would jump up to 0.1 right there. All right. So it go to 1.7. Hold on a second. 1.76%. And this is how you factor inflation. Is you just take your expenditures, you weight them, and then you take whatever you think the cost of growth will be. When a compounded annual growth rate, if you want, I don't care. You literally take whatever number you're projecting to the future as your cost increases, and that's how you get your own inflation. You build your own CPI. It's also how you build your own portfolio of expected returns, by the way, of stocks and bonds. So let me just give an example here real quick. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. What are we doing, baby? Okay. So let's just say you have 0.60, a 60-40 portfolio. All right. And we expect stocks to give us a 0.06 rate of return and bonds to give us a 0.04 rate of return. How you figure out your expected rate of return is you weight the percentage that you hold in stocks, weight the percentage that you hold in bonds, and then you times each by your expected rate of return for both those. So in this case, well, that's going to be 3.6. 1 second. So 0.6 times 0.06. Yes, 3.6%. Oops. And that'll be 0.4 times 0.04. 1 point. Oops. Hold on a second. 0.4. Hey, I think your sister's here, everybody. Hey, your sister's here. That's 1.6%. So in this case, you say, okay, so of my portfolio, bonds will give me a 1.6% rate of return. So I only got 40% of my portfolio in bonds, and I'm expecting a 4% rate of return. Stocks will give me 3.6% rate of return because I only got 60% of my portfolio in stocks, and I'm expecting a 6% rate of return. So we add those numbers up, and we expect a 60-40 portfolio to give us a 5.2% rate of return. And you do the same thing with standard deviations as well. You say, what's my expected risk on standard deviations? And that's how you do that too, to give you your own standard deviation and your own ability to do like a Monte Carlo, essentially, if that makes sense. All right. Yeah, right here. Perfect. Right on. That's right. Again, I'm not challenging Slim Tim. There's more to the story, and I just, look, I get a lot of emails from guys trying to show me up, and I'm not saying he was doing that. Don't if he's on here. I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm saying I get emails from people who are just not quite sharing the entire story in order to make a point, and I don't know why, frankly. Now, there is a couple guys that email me about my Roth conversion thing, and they adamantly disagree with me. But at least one guy had the guts to say it is tough to figure out, dude. I appreciate that, and I said, yeah, it is. It is. So if it's tough to figure out the tax code, I'm always going to default on siding with what I think the IRS wants, if that makes sense. And so again, this is going on in the Roth conversions. If you do a Roth conversion and you're pulling money out of that Roth conversion after 5 years have gone up, but before you're 59 and a half, is it LIFO? Or is it, and I think you're paying your. I actually read the sequence of the withdrawal sequences, and it said taxable portion comes out first, which means to me the money you got to pay tax on comes out first. Had a couple people disagree. A couple were freaking snarky. One guy was actually pretty polite. I said, that's okay. That's your reading of it. I don't read it the same way. And as such, I'm going with I'm going to err on the side of caution when it comes to the IRS. And I would highly advise any of you guys do too. If your translation is such that if you want to show the IRS that, hey, man, my way is right, that's okay for you. I'm not making that recommendation, at least. Anyway, so just again, real quick. Once you've had your Roth, I'm 52. I do a Roth conversion. I'll have access to that money when I'm 57. All right. The Roth converted amount, I'll have access to it. But say my $50,000 Roth conversion has now grown to $60,000 bucks. All right. Say I only want to take $10,000 out. So Roth conversion, I start with 50,000. 5 years have gone by. Now it's worth 60. I need a $10,000 distribution. I'm under the age of 59 and a half. It is my contention, according to the IRS 590, that says you take your taxable portion out first. Now, other guys were saying the conversion, they're equating that to a contribution, and I don't get that in the least. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm not wrong, but I don't like the idea of saying a contribution is synonymous with a conversion synonymous with a contribution. I'm not buying that. Not at all. So in this case, because in that case, we know you can take your contributions out first. Right? That's not debatable. A conversion, in my opinion, reading what I read about the tax code, is not the same as a contribution. So for me, that's off the table. So the next question is, of my $60,000, can I have access to the $10,000 of principal without touching my $10,000 of gains? I don't think so. I actually think it's pretty clear in the tax code. Now, I literally could be wrong. Other people don't think I'm clear on that, or that I'm reading it wrong. I don't think so. I think if you're going to take that $10,000 out, the IRS says that's great. That $10,000 from earnings, we want you to pay tax. And then because you're under the age of 59 and a half, a penalty as well. Now, remember, you can take your money out after 5 years if you made no money. No one's challenging that. So if you have $50,000 and you did a Roth conversion 5 years later, it's worth $45,000, even though you're under the age of 59 and a half, you can pull that whole thing out, man, because you already paid tax on it. The penalties, you don't have to pay a penalty. It's already been 5 years and you've already paid the tax. So the question is just your gains. And, so anyways, people disagree on that. And I'm okay with that. That's not enough to get me to pull that video, frankly. If I had one guy, I've had a couple of videos I pulled where a cooler heads prevailed. One was on fire movement, and I'm not a big fan of the fire movement generally. And one guy said, "You seem like you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or whatever." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Okay, I'll revisit that." And I watched my video. I think he was right, so I pulled that video. Denise today thought I was laughing initially at the guy Slim Tim, on his issues with property tax. I said, well, and I like Denise. I respect her immensely. So I said, if that's the way I came across, I do not want that. So I watched the video twice. I didn't see it like that. And then Penelope would you make up your mind for heaven's sake? And Penelope, she also didn't think I was coming across as laughing at the guy. There's no way I want to laugh at somebody who's in a bad place. But anyway, so just going back to inflation, that's how you figure out your own inflation. That's how you figure out your own stock performance, in terms of your portfolio. You should know how to do all this. That way you don't have to rely on crap. Because, if you have to rely on people, the people are going to want to get paid, and people want to get paid. And a lot of times they're getting paid to do worse for you than you could do for yourself. No one cares about your money more than you, man. That's a fact. There's my man James, right on. Let's watch out for ticks. All right, let's keep going here. Placebo. Yeah, man. All right. How common is it for your clients that have retired to spend less than their planned budget allows? How common? That's a good question, Jeff. So let me put it up again. How common is it for my clients? You have to ask them. That's a good question. I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm not sure, man. I've never really actually thought about that way, specific to the group of people as a whole. It seemed like I was working with some guy the other day. He actually spent more than we allowed. That we projected. As it's interesting though. I was working these guys up in Minnesota, and actually the lady I was working with yesterday too. And this happens all the time. People like, my expenditures are $100,000 a year. And then we look at it and like, well, we're showing $160,000 a year. And the reason is because they're throwing everything in their $100,000 a year expenditures in one lump sum kind of thing. But what the right capital software does, this kind of keeps going, is it divides up to healthcare, income tax, property tax, homeowners and stuff like that. And so, she's like at 21%, and she got referred to me by somebody else down there in Texas. He's like, "Now he'll show you what you obviously made." She was like panicked. No, maybe not panicked, but she was like, "Oh my goodness!" And he goes, "Now you're doing something wrong. He'll figure it out." And she was over billing herself significantly, and that happens a lot in the right capital software. People say, "I'm going to spend $100,000 a year." It's $8,300 a month. But they don't know that on top of that, right capital is adding healthcare, property tax, income tax, if you have any debt and all that. And in this case, she's like, "Man," and I said, "No, you're fine. Once we right size your actual expenditures, you're fine." If that makes sense. All right. Interesting. I do take 2 magnesium things. I'm glad you said that. So that's interesting. My son says you won't have many viewers because all at work. By the way, he just moved to Fulton County from Wake, Illinois. Right on. Sorry. Mac and cheese. Pixel. Why I say mac and cheese? I'm not. I'll get it. Mac and cheese. On Rumble, someone said mac and cheese. I'm not sure what they're saying there. Let's keep going. All right. Good. Let's see. Okay. Good. Yeah, right here. Oh, looks at Jill. Glad to hear you quit the Lexapro. Fake sugars can bring on type 2 diabetes. Knew someone at work it actually happened to. Screws of metal. I that was a Lexapro. I think it's more of a aspartame and the other stuff there, sucralose and all that. Not sure what you're talking. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we talked about this last time. So let's keep going back and forth. Little Pablo. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if your contract says they can call your loan, I guess your contract says they can call your loan. But like Denise says, but that means they're gonna have to take over your property. The banks really aren't in the business of being property managers. Really? Man. John says Vanguard ended their financial advisory services in the UK. They're hoping to get older clientele, but end up with a bunch of younger folks that they're hoping to get the managed money. If someone doesn't know I have dogs, they're like, "Why does that door keep opening and shutting, opening and shutting?" It's a ghost. All right. Full retirement age in March. Pension still work for another year. Will my Social Security be adjusted? Yes. Yeah. Social Security payment will be adjusted. Yeah. Let's see. No, they're not going to. So Richard says the Fed has been raising rates for over a year now. Inflation is still climbing. You can't. I mean, no one would expect that inflation would drop like a brick in water just because of raising rates. But they'll never give it up because they have to keep the idea that they're in control. And so as that thing on in Auburn, Alabama, Opelika, Alabama, with the Mises Institute, and the level of just the Paul Volcker, even these guys like Paul Volcker stopped inflation. I literally can't believe this. I'm sitting there thinking, oh no, I was like biting my tongue. I was like, "Arr." Don't forget, Paul Volcker was the chair of the New York Federal Bank, which is like the AAA for the next president. All right, so it wasn't like Paul Volcker had. Anyway, they were raising rates all through the '70s, man. All through the '70s, they're raising rates. Volcker was chair of the Federal Reserve Board in New York. He wasn't president, but he became president. What 1978 or something like that, '79, under was it Arthur Banks or something like that was the guy before him. And we didn't whip inflation until the latter part of 1982. It wasn't like they just suddenly started raising rates when Paul Volcker came into existence. It's nuts. And yet everyone thinks this raising rates beat inflation. Now we proved it. And similar to Milton Friedman's thing that the reason the Great Depression happened, and I think there's some validity to this, but again, I think they put too much emphasis on the Fed, is that we contracted the monetary supply. And I think there's some a little bit to that, sure, but that's not the cause of the Great Depression. Well, it's not the cause, but it expanded it. I don't know so much about that. Anyway, so the point being was, if you're going to be a monetarist, Milton Friedmanite, then you have to say when deflation is here, we should expand the balance sheet and basically print money, which is exactly what Bernanke did because he was an acolyte of Milton Friedman. Right. On the other hand, if you're a monetarist, you say, well, when inflation is high, we got to increase interest rates and buy back or sell back bonds so we can reduce the quantity of money out there. It's great on theory. It's great on paper. It doesn't mean crap. And then the monetarists, the Milton Friedmanites, all fall for this hook, on a sinker. And the Chicago school dominates economics. At Keynesian is different. Keynesian just says spend money on anything. Just keep spending, spending, spending. We don't care. We're going to spend on anything. Buy Pablo freaking a ribeye steak. Just keep spending, baby. Break windows. Keynesian is like Antifa. Break windows. Why? Because it's good for the economy. The broken window theory. I mean, that's silly too. But at least with Milton Friedman, he can at least stake a claim that the Fed did contract the monetary supply in the 1930s, and as such, a Great Depression did happen. Correlation equal causation? I don't know. I don't think so, but okay, we still have that. And then you still have Volcker raised rates and inflation did go down. Well, I eat carrots, I will die. Correlation equals causation, right? Because Volcker raised rates, the Fed's restricted contracted monetary supply in the 1930s. Both times when these things happen, the Great Depression happened in the 1930s, and then the interest rates or we went to a massive not depression, recession, and on top of that, we did finally whip inflation out. Was it because of Volcker? You can make an argument, but just because you have a correlation doesn't make the causation. Yet everyone and their mom still falls into this. So anyway, Richard says, why isn't it working? Why aren't they going to recognize it doesn't work? Because they want the freaking power. That's why. That's why. Did you ever cover I'm not a big fan of 72T, frankly. Frank? Hey, frankly, Frank. 72T are just your separately equal periodic payments that you can have access to your retirement accounts before you're 59 and a half without paying the penalty. I'm just not a big fan. And the reason is the calculations are kind of, they're just as tough. Other people I'm sure on YouTube say, it's great, 72T. I just never liked it. And if you do 72T, remember it's 5 years or until you're 59, whichever is longer. If you forget to do it, that's a pretty significant penalty and taxes you got to pay. So, not the biggest fan. I'm sure it's a tool that can be used regularly and without problem. But for me, it's just it's not anything I've dived into, and frankly, don't really want to. Oh yeah, insurance going through the roof. We know that. Florida's got it, man. I mean, you're living on a peninsula down there. How much do I recommend for a Roth conversion amount for a single person as the best income tax scenario? Yeah, if you're single, I'm going to be hesitant to recommend a Roth conversion, Hello Kitty, just because what are we trying to do here? You know what I'm saying? I mean, what's the issue we're trying to resolve? To reduce taxes in the future, so pay more taxes now. It's going to be tough for a single person to make a good case for Roth conversion more often than not. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but I'm not sure I would make a recommendation on that right out the gate. That's for sure. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Well, remember, they're not. Just as an FYI, the Texas real estate is almost like reverse mortgage. What's happening is you're deferring the taxes, and I think if Jeff can speak to this, I think I want to say it's like a 6% interest rate too. So it's not like they waive off the increase in taxes. They just say you don't have to pay the increase in taxes, but we're going to have an account. So when you die or sell your home, it's literally the same thing like reverse mortgage. We're going to come calling for that. So it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, don't think they're just waving it off like, you're good to go. You should see that if you guys weren't on my LinkedIn, my video I did the other day on my my locals channel. I talked about once you're 75 years old, there should be no more income taxes or property tax. You've already paid enough. You've already done your due diligence. You're good. We're going to waive you. And once you're 70, you should really think about that. 75 years old, obviously with certain income constraints, but let's just say you make less than 100,000, married, filing jointly, 50,000 single. No more property tax or income tax. Now, people, well, property tax or if they're municipal, I get it, man. It's not a federal thing, but you got to start someplace. So you say, yep, property tax waived once you're 75, as long as you make a certain amount of income, then you're fine. And then the federal government doesn't have to have any income tax once you're over 75. They should have no more of that. Oh yeah, 100%. I completely agree. Absolutely. Low property tax. You got these gentrification people moving on in, buying low property, and then they gentrify it, and next thing you know, they make big bucks. I'm not a fan of CBDC at all. The central bank digital currency is coming, is inevitable. I hate it, but it is what it is, man. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, some foods have gone up 3 times to 4 times what they were 5 years ago. I right. Okay, so you take in that consideration. You say this in economics, we call this a substitution effect. What did you buy before that's now 4 times what it was 5 years ago? I'm not going to buy that anymore. I'm going to buy the sub. I'm going to substitute that, whatever it is. It's called substitution effect. It's just common sense here, my friends. Just because something's gone up 400% over 5 years ago doesn't mean you have to keep buying it. For heaven's sake, man. It's basic. This is just basic economics. In fact, this is what makes economics um, why I hate the fact they went Paul Samuelson and all these mathematical equations and econometrics, because economics is just basic common sense. If the price of maple syrup went up 400%, I'm not buying maple syrup anymore. I'll find something to substitute with it. Maybe I'll do whipped cream instead of maple syrup on my pancakes. It's just kind of common sense here. I mean, so again, if we're using inflation, but I have, this went up 400%, thus inflation. Personalize it, my friends. Personalize your inflation for the 100%. I could not agree more. So now we're seeing for the first time in 20 years a benefit retirees where they can actually get good interest on their savings and cost of living adjustments on Social Security that are meaningful. This is, I hate to say it, but retirees who retired over the last 20 years, they're lucky the stock market went up as much as it did. Because they would have been left out in the cold. Low interest rates and low stock performance, they would have been freaking doomed. And no Social Security adjustments either. So the markets, there is definitely something that's said about retirees now having a benefit that they haven't seen in 20 years. That's a fact. Assuming married, Social Security 4,500. How much taxable income can you have while avoiding big tax hits? Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to do. I don't know off the top of my head. I have to crunch that numbers, but you can figure it out. I mean, so we simply say if we're married filing jointly, we got $45,000 of Social Security, right? And we know for a fact we'll have no tax on our Social Security. Why? Because we're going to figure out provisional income. Divide that by 2. What's that? 22.5. So that's 22.5. Right? So 22.5. Now we got to figure out how much of that is going to be subject to tax. Well, the first 0 to 32 is 0. So we can just stop right there. So we know for a fact you have no taxable income on that $45,000. So none of your Social Security is subject to taxation at $45,000. Now let's add $50,000 of IRA distributions. $50,000 plus our $22,500 for Social Security. So that means our provisional income is $72,500. $72,500. Right? Again, provisional income is just to see how much for a Social Security is subject to taxation. $72,500. The first 30, so 32, yes, 32, 0 to 32, yes. The first 32,000 tax free. So now we're left with 40,500. All right, so the first 32,000 tax free, 40,500. The next 12,000, $6,000 would be taxable Social Security. All right, so because that's a 50%. I hate to call it a bend point, but I'm going to call it a bend point here. So now we're left with 28,500. And that's times 0.85. So the next amount, 28,500, if my math is right, if it's not, it's okay. 28,500 times that by 0.85, 24,225. All right, so now we know of our Social Security, which was $45,000 plus 6,000. So 30,225 is our taxable Social Security amount, 30,225. Plus we have $50,000 of IRA distributions. So we know right out the gate our AGI is 80,225. 80,225. All right. So now we're going to subtract, for simplicity, a $30,000 standard deduction, and we are at $50,000 is our taxable income. $50,000 of taxable income. The first 40,000 is 10% if memory serves. The next 10,000 is 12%. So you'll have roughly $6,200 of taxes here. So you have $6,200 of total taxes paid. All right. So of 45,000 Social Security, we had nothing. 50,000 plus the 45,000 of Social Security. That made we have that. Essentially, what that means is that $50,000 distribution was taxed at a 12.4% tax hit. Why? Because you actually had to pay taxes on your Social Security income, even though you didn't make any more money. But before it was not subject to taxation, but now it is. So that basically double tax you. All right, but still, what do you say? $6,200 of taxes on $95,000 of income. Spare me. Not that big of a deal, man. Not that big of a deal. But they're gonna kill me. The tax man's gonna kill me. I live in Maryland. Look at your Maryland taxes. I guarantee. If you're paying anything, it's gonna be a whole lot lower than $6,200. There's no state that taxes more than the feds do. No, it doesn't work like that. All right. Last couple here. Yeah, what is big taxes? 100% Camaro. What up, Doug? Some bonds were paying 9%. What bonds are paying 9%? Dude, you know what you're talking about, man. Some bonds are paying 9% in December, now down to 2%. I'll buy that for 2 seconds flat. Do buy that for 2 seconds flat. All right. Yeah, there you go. Just put solar on electric vehicles and travel for free. Free. We should put solar on airplanes, travel for free. So easy. All you need is A stack of solar panels the size of the Empire State Building, but it'll work. Pepperidge Farms, yeah, Pepperidge Farms, Swanson's. Yeah, I mean, it's all relative, though, Sergio. I mean, I'll take 8% inflation, CPI inflation if I get 5% of my safe money, or 4% CPI if I'm getting 1%. I tend to agree with you too, because your CPI isn't going to be 8%. If that's I completely agree with that, actually. So let me take that back, saying it's relative. It's not. In this case, you're getting, because the way they calculate CPI is whatever they're saying is stupid, because of OER, owner's equivalent rent, you're actually getting the benefit as a retiree of higher COLAs on Social Security, even though you're not paying that insanity on inflation that CPI indicates. You could be paying more. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's all based on your waiting expenditures. Now, you guys are missing it. I'm not saying Aunt Jemima. No. That's not the issue. The issue is there is no more stovetop stuffing. You cannot. It was never done. It was never there. It was never in history. That's what the Mandela effect is. It changed. It used to be there. Now it no longer is there. Why? Aunt Jemima used to be there. She's not here anymore, but she used to be there. Stovetop stuffing was never there, according to people who say that we're all misremembering. They're saying there's never such thing as stovetop stuffing. There was stovetop stuffing. We all know it. But just look, they'll say it never existed. You're like, I know it existed. No one's saying Aunt Jemima never existed. You guys are missing it. It's just not. It used to say stovetop stuffing. That's what it used to be. Stovetop stuffing. Now people are like, nah, it never existed. It was never Stofers. But it was. That's why we all know it. This is what people say who don't agree with the Mandela effect. Say it was stovetop stuffing. It was just never from Stofers. Yes, it was. It was. It just got changed. It's called Mandela effect, man. Just like where two or more are gathered in the Bible. We all remember being two or more. Now it says two or three. No. The lion will lay down with the lamb. It's no longer the lion and the lamb. Now it's the wolf and the lamb. We all remember all this stuff. The residue on all this stuff is through the roof. Two or more, not two or three. The lion will lay down the lamb. Now it's the wolf will lay down with the lamb. Your Bible says the wolf will lay down with the lamb. We all know this. It doesn't say two or more in your Bible. Literally, your Bible say two or three, even though it used to say two or more. You know that for a fact. Things get changed. It's the alternate reality, man. It's nuts. I like that. I like this offer, man, if that guy's still here. If you end up buying a fund like Wellington, when will you see the benefits for high rates? Yeah, I mean, as the older bonds circle out, like any kind of bond fund, as older bonds circle out, new bonds get bought in, you'll see a benefit for sure. Right. Okay. I was wondering, when you say when about to retire, how soon should be thinking that is? Yeah, if you're 4 years out, I'd be, I don't know, man. It's up to you. It's up to each person. If you're 4 years out, should you go 60-40 bonds? He's already 60. I wouldn't. If I'm 4 years out, I'm not moving to a guaranteed. But I don't know your circumstance. Just for me personally, I would not do that. But I don't know. You'd have to look at your own ability to sleep at night. I'm just thinking about it. Say you got $1 million, you're 4 years out of retirement. Could you handle a 30% decline? If you can't, then go guaranteed, man. Especially now when you're getting 5%. I get no problem with that. But with that said, do I recommend that? It really depends on the situation. But I mean, again, 30% decline happened. It can happen again. And if it happened again, right when you're 2 or 3 years out of retirement, that doesn't make it better than if it happened the first year you're in retirement. Either way, you're like, damn, I got screwed. I don't call them hybrids, but they're never going to replace ICEs. I mean, I get a hybrid, I get it. But what I'm saying is, electric vehicles. It's not. We don't have it. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. All right. Here in Massachusetts, they cannot tax you on rooms in your house that are not 100% above ground. My house has 4 bedrooms and 2 full baths. Did not know that. Did not know that. Yeah, right on, Jill. Yes, you might ask them. tax CPA could settle this 100%. Ask him, see what he thinks. I'd be interested. I always, when in doubt, always whip it out. That's what you say in the army. When in doubt, whip it out. Salute. When in doubt, salute. So when in doubt, whip out another tax, more money to the IRS. When in doubt, whip it out, because you want to make sure you're in good graces with the IRS. Stouffer's mac and cheese. I did not know that. Pixel Beat Surf says Stouffer's mac and cheese was a hot item at the time. Interesting. I didn't know that Stouffer's. I just remember watching football. Stouffer's stovetop stuffing. What did it say? Stouffer's stovetop stuffing instead of potatoes. I remember that like it's yesterday. All right, I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. We got one last one here. 54. He just left the military. He was active Marine Corps. Too young to draw retirements. Think of putting TSP in a fixed index annuity. What are your thoughts? 54 just left the military. Inactive. Too young to draw down retirements. Think of putting my TSP into a fixed index annuity. I mean, I don't know, man. What are we trying to do? I don't get it. Why not just a G fund? If you're worried about the markets falling, just put in the G fund. That makes sense. I haven't looked at Fidelity's retirement plan in a couple of years. That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't looked at it for a long time. As talking fake sugar, the big pharma drugs. Okay, yeah, 100%, Jill. I look. I don't want to lose my mind. My concern is losing my memory is horrible. I can't do that. I mean, if I do it, I mean, it's going to happen. But I got to prepare. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm already getting older. I couldn't remember placebo. I know we all get that. But it's like, dude, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to not remember placebo. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And I'm only 52, man. If I have to stop remembering things because freaking crap I'm putting in my body, well, I don't want to put that in my body. I want to give myself a fighting chance, man. All right. Guess we'll get out of here, my friends. Dude, Carl, I do so many freaking single examples. My goodness. Single Susie, Scott single. I do so many single examples. It's insane, man. Why do you guys keep you keep saying you don't do enough single. I say, how many single examples do I have to do to make Carl happy? Well, let me guess. All of them. All of them should be single. Man, I do tons of single examples here. The reason I did that thing on Social Security is because the guy said he's married, filing joint with $45,000 Social Security. Oh, my lands. Do singles. Maybe you should get married, Carl. You know you want to. You know you're looking for a hot lady to marry. You know you want to, Carl. All right. Let's see. Since Snippy Joe Dow's up 4.6%. I don't care. If one of the girls moved multiple states away, dude, that's the issue right there, man. That's the issue. That's why I'm like, dude. I'm like, right now I'm thinking about Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Because Alabama kicks ass. Everything's right about Alabama except their stupid governor, and she'll be gone hopefully at some point. But anyway, what if my kids are freaking? I was talking to this lady yesterday, like when in Chicago. Hell bells. I'm moving anywhere north of the Mason-Dixon line. I'll tell you that right now. But even though I talk about moving to Maine, I couldn't. It's too cold, man. I just having this guy on the YouTube channel the other day saying, again, 18 inches right now of snow. I got to help someone tug themselves out. I was like, and I'm sitting here in the sun. Like, I can't move to Maine permanently. Not only that, my wife would kill me. So that's not happening. So I'm like, all right, Alabama looks pretty good. Staying in Georgia. But where are the kids going to be? And my dog's got an internship this summer in Houston. Maybe she loves Houston. Houston. Cockroaches that fly, which are the size of freaking mice. Hell no. Hell no. I'm not moving to Houston. Nuts. By maybe Louisiana. Western part of Louisiana where Texas and Louisiana meet. Well, I got a daughter in Houston, one up in Boston, a kid in LA, and one in Seattle. I mean, that's not going to happen. Where am I going to move? Your old buddy Josh. Oh, Jill, I do tons of single. Oh, my goodness. All right, maybe I don't do enough. All right, if Jill says it. We just know Carl. Carl's kind of a whiny kind of guy, so we know that if Jill's saying it too, then it's probably legit. All right, more single. Gotcha. But Carl, he's like, I just want to find a nice lady I can marry who will listen to everything I say. Yeah, I thought about when I was looking for work for the YouTube channel, Jill. I do sing. Okay, thank you, Jill. Yeah, look at see Jill. Jill and I had back and forth about Trump, sir. She's still here. You know what I'm saying? We agreed to wait to see how things shake out. People get all like, "Rah, rah." My man John Gen X here, friggin', saying, talk about, we're gonna talk about Einstein fraud. He's still here. It's all good. It's all good. Back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, Carolinas look pretty good, man. Not gonna lie to you. Not gonna lie to you. But it's hard to move, dude. But I gotta get out Fulton County. That's the issue. I can't stay in Fulton. The thing that sucks is I'm telling you, man, my trees are starting to really grow. My plant, my bushes, my blueberry bushes, raspberry bushes. Put a bunch of grape bushes in. They're starting to grow. It's like you hate to leave those behind, but Fulton County sucks, man. It's just this, and I'd like to have enough land where I could put some corn in the ground. Right now, we don't have enough to put corn. Yeah, because corn takes up a lot of space. I love fresh corn. I want to keep probably a tenth of an acre to do nothing but corn. That's what I'd like, and then make sure it's freaking fenced in so my dogs don't get in there. And over the deer stay away. But I'd like to have about a tenth, maybe a tenth of an acre or so, just nothing but corn. And I don't need a small backyard garden. Small would be big. What I have now would be bigger now. I want fruit trees, a nice backyard garden. A tenth of an acre, tenth acre. I mean, that's 4,000 square feet. That's pretty big. 4,000 square feet for a tenth of an acre, and probably not that. Probably a 20th of an acre. So 2,000 square foot would be was 100 by 200. That'd be a lot of corn. That I'd like that. I like that. A lot of corn. Yeah, Southern Indiana. I looked at Columbus, Indiana, and Jasper, Indiana. Both those places look. And then Evansville, right? I think it's Evansville. How much would you need for a tenth of an acre? Is 4,000 square feet. That's 200 by 200. That's a pretty big. That's a good size. You get a lot of corn there. And you can do the Three Sisters: corn, beans, and CBS, corn, beans, and squash. Is squash? Corn. It's Three Sisters: corns, beans, and squash. I don't think it's squash, is it? Jill, your what's her name? Your neighbor there. She would know what the Three Sisters are: corn, beans, and squash. Hey, yeah, but we also want to be close enough to a beach. Like 2 hours away from a beach or something like that. Is one of our thinking, but who knows, man? I mean, it all is up in the air. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be that close, because frankly, I'm not going to go to the beach every weekend. But it'd be nice to be able to say, let's just go for the weekend. But we don't want to live on the beach. I worry about the hurricanes, so we'd live in a place we could rent, a month on the beach, a month in a place up in Maine, a month on the beach. All right. I'm not sure why you're. Is that okay? That's good. Are you saying you don't want me to talk about the Three Sisters? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm not talking about financial advice. Dude, I love New Jersey, man. I loved it. That's the best place I lived in terms of neighbors, in terms of everything is like convenient. The freaking beaches kick ass. It's just New Jersey. New Jersey. It's freaking insane, expensive, and the people there are nuts, man. I mean, just no other way there is to it. And our neighbors are great, but the state is run by lunatics, and the lunatics are voted in by lunatics, and they just capitulate. It's nuts. My sister who lives in Morristown is saying some of these schools are still mandating masks. It's crazy. What is this, man? 1 second. All right. My wife just texted. All right. No, it's not wheat. It's not wheat. It's like corn, beans, and I could have sworn squash, man. Corn, beans, and squash. All right, now I gotta look it up. We're gonna look up Three Sisters. Three Sisters Gardening, right there. Three Sisters Garden. It is For centuries, these three crops have been known to grow together. The American Indians, corn, beans, and squash. It is squash. Okay, there we go. Corn, beans, and squash. So because I think the beans are a nitrogen fixer. The corn, I can't remember, but it's corn, beans, and squash. So you can grow them together and just kind of throw them in there together. Now, obviously, the squash better have a trestle. You know what I'm saying? Truss, whatever that is, trestle. Because the squash, you don't want that sitting on the ground if you can avoid it. But corns, beans, and squash. I didn't have that good. You need a bigger lot than I had to do that because unfortunately, my better half said we're keeping most of our yard for away from gardening. So I have this tiny little lot that I can do some gardening in, but not much. Not what I want, that's for sure. That's why I can't stay here in this house because I need to be able to do more corn. I love corn, but corn takes a lot of space. So if you have a tiny little lot, you don't want to allocate it to corn, even if you're going to do squash and beans in there too. Because actually, I mean, I it's just not going to work because you're only going to get a couple freaking things of corn for the time and energy it takes up. It's not worth it. You need a bigger plot for more corn. That's for sure. All right, right on. Oh, you got it. All right. I didn't know you were saying because Houston. Interesting. Houston, worst allergies ever had. Good to know. All right, there. I didn't know if you were being passive aggressive because I hear this all the time. You're great on financial advice, but everything else you suck. I'm like, then, I mean, it's just I don't get it. All right, well, take it and leave it. And I am nuts, dude. I am nuts. Moved to Kentucky. Yeah, I tell you, man. No, I think Kentucky wasn't. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I like Kentucky. I'm a fan of Kentucky for sure. Yeah, I saw that, Jeff. Now you're stupid governor. Like, who would want to ever move to New York City? It's dirty. It's cold. The people are nuts. Oh my goodness! But I feel like I'm with Barbara Streisand. No, who's the Barbara Streisand? Who all those New York City people? I don't know who they are. They're Friends. I get to feel like I'm in part of Friends. Oh, horrible, horrible. It's only gonna get worse too. All right, my friends, I'm gonna get out of here. God bless. Appreciate y'all being here. Rusty Wench says bye. Right on, what Rusty Wench. Sorry, but your name. See you guys. Good boy, Pablo. Good boy.